The movie is set in a small American town. A group of teenagers going to a party drive up to one of the houses. One of the girls tries to call Mary Giordano with her. However, the heroine remains at home, continuing to study detective magazines and newspapers. In the morning, the radio reports that the tragedy that happened to Kathleen Dunleavy is still unsolved. Mary writes down the details of what happened and puts them away in her unsolved cases folder. Hearing her mother's voice, the heroine rather closes her closet, where her detective supplies are kept, and goes downstairs. Celia Giordano finds strange things at her daughter named Vicky and makes a scandal. However, Mary intervenes in time in the dispute, who decides to protect her sister. In college, the heroine tries to communicate with Liz McConnell, but the girl is angry that Mary is interested only in investigations and not in parties and hanging out with guys. In class, the heroine has to answer a question from a nun, but this is interrupted by the appearance of Margie Dunleavy, the sister of a girl who recently had an accident. After class, Mary goes to the police station, where she feels at home. The heroine heads to the office of Jerry Gwynn and tries to find out details about the Dunleavy case. However, the man asks her to do something else that her father would have wanted her to do. However, Mary is convinced that she should continue his work and become a policeman. Despite Jerry's refusal, the heroine does not intend to give up. Mary believes that she must go the way of the criminal and try on Kathleen's personality to get to the truth. Near the pool where Dunleavy was practicing, the heroine notices a strange guy who actively seduces other female visitors. Encouraged by the lead, Mary decides to follow the suspect. The heroine takes his pictures and notices a weapon in the guy's hands. Returning home, the heroine tries to imagine step by step what happened to Dunleavy. The next day after classes, Mary notices that a strange guy from the pool is following her. The stalker brings the heroine all the way home, after which he disappears. In the evening, at the request of her mother, Mary goes to the store, and there again meets a suspicious guy. The heroine decides to use a means of self-defense, after which she gets to the police station. Jerry tells her that Tony Campbell is actually the best recruit in their department. Mary walks the boy home and learns that he wants to be a detective too. Tony agrees that what happened to Dunleavy is very similar to what happened 2 years ago in Detroit. Mary offers cooperation, but the guy does not want to risk the girl's life. The next day, the heroine secretly penetrates into Jerry's office and makes copies of documents on the case of Dunleavy. In the end, Tony, seeing such information in Mary's hands, offers to cooperate. It turns out that Kathleen was last seen at the local mini-mart. The heroes decide to go there to gather more information and start looking for clues. The seller treats Tony dismissively, but the young policeman still manages to get him to talk. It turns out that Kathleen bought detergent, after which she went to the parking lot. There was a suspicious car in it, which soon disappeared. Mary is frightened by the guy's methods, and he apologizes for them. Tony tells her that as a child his father made him jump from a great height into the water despite his fear. Before going to bed, Mary looks at pictures of the guy and fantasizes about him. In the morning, the heroine goes to the Luna Park and finds out which cities they have already stayed in. Mary guesses that the criminal is one of the employees of this enterprise. With the help of Brother John, the heroine prints out the names of the employees and recognizes the brands of their cars. Finally, the girl manages to find the name of the suspect, Earl Parkers. Together with Tony, the heroine goes to the amusement park and watches the criminal. Mary tries to understand what motives moved Earl, because only in this way can help him to improve. The heroine decides to take a risk and goes to the attraction. Earl immediately pays close attention to her. Tony and his partner decide to follow the man. Earl arrives at a strange premises where he meets his mistress. However, the man hears the heroes and decides to leave. Mary records his girlfriend's number, and the pursuit of Earl continues. After the stakeout, Tony invites the heroine to his home. The couple drinks and continues to sort through the documents, trying to find new clues. For Mary's purse accidentally flies out an envelope with photos of the guy. The heroine kisses Tony, but the guy pulls away. The guy explains that he doesn't want to scare Mary, but the girl says it's okay. The characters continue to hug and study each other in the car. Mary comes home late and cries as she removes her cross. The heroine feels awful, and in the morning, Jerry comes to see her, Having been called in by a worried Celia, the policeman shows Mary the new girl who lost her life and asks her to be more careful. The heroine uses the license plate number to find Sherry Tarnley. However, upon arriving at the station, Mary learns that the police are closing the case and Mr. Moore is named as the culprit. The heroine decides to come to Margie's house. Mary explores Kathleen's room, trying to find new clues. The heroine manages to find an item Earl wears on his belt, and she finds a scary pattern that it turns out all the girls were attacked on the last Friday of the month. And another last Friday is due soon. Mary goes to her partner's house and finds glass cleaner and bleach in a strange bag, the main evidence in Kathleen's case. The heroine decides to look around the apartment for other suspicious items. On the calendar, the approaching Friday is circled. Suddenly, Mary sees a guy walk in and tries to look casual. Tony tells her that he has found new evidence against Earl, but notices that the heroine is scared. While leaving, Mary accidentally enters the garage and notices a car that the mini-mart clerk saw in the parking lot. With all the evidence gathered, the shocked heroine comes to Jerry's office. However, the policeman reacts to Mary's story rather skeptically. The heroine goes to Sherry's house and gives her phone number, just in case. Mary then goes to one of the park employees and asks her to follow Earl on Friday. Roxanne tells her that on the last Friday in March, the suspect paid a visit to the Golden Creek Hotel. In the evening, Mary makes an appointment for Tony to meet her at the mini-mart. The heroine tells about her suspicions, which offends the guy very much. During a meeting on Friday, Mary faints and has a terrifying dream in which Tony stalks her and tries to brutalize her. While the heroine is not at home, a crying Sherry comes to her. Mary learns about this from her brother in the evening and immediately runs away. At the amusement park, the heroine runs into Tony and tries to hide from him. Mary climbs to a great height when the guy stuns her. Tony carefully brings the heroine down and tries to bring her to her senses. Mary wakes up crying and tries to run away, but the guy asks her to calm down and promises that he won't hurt her again. He had to use force to keep them both from falling off the ride. Tony circled today on his calendar because he took his exam today and finally became a police officer. Mary realizes that her suspicions were false and unjustified. Having reconciled, the heroes go to a suspicious place where Earl met with his mistress. On the floor, Mary sees the girl and almost screams, but the guy manages to bring her to her senses and remind her to be quiet. In another room, Tony finds Earl, who took his own life with a rope. Jerry, who arrives on the scene, blames Mary for what happened. During the prom, the heroine is sad and tells Tony that Sherry came to her to say something, which makes Mary feel guilty. Meanwhile, Jerry begins to suspect that Earl was actually innocent, and his note confessing to the crime is actually an attempt by the real criminal to escape justice. The policeman arrives at Mr. Turnley's house and learns that Sherry has mentioned Earl's ex-wife. Jerry learns that her name is Roxanne and drives to the amusement park grounds. Bursting into the wagon, the man sees utter chaos and realizes that the jealous woman is insane. Meanwhile, Mary wakes up from a nightmare. The girl takes out Earl's souvenir, which the guy left to Kathleen. Remembering the mutilation of one of the man's hands, the heroine tries to repeat the knot. When she fails, the girl realizes that Earl couldn't have been the culprit and someone set him up. Mary returns to the scene of the crime and sees a strange envelope. In it, the girl finds photos that clearly show that Tony was involved in the crimes. At this time, Jerry, interrogating Roxanne, receives the results of the examination and runs out of the room. The heroine is left alone with Tony. Mary learns that Earl lent the guy a car for a while, but then met Sherry and decided to part with his partner. Tony has been following the heroine for a long time, and now he's ready to say goodbye to her. The heroine receives a rabbit's foot from his hands, the same as Kathleen's. Jerry learns from Vicky that her sister may be in an abandoned factory. At this time, Tony tells the girl how he approached Kathleen and introduced himself as a policeman. The guy convinced the gullible student that children were being sold illegal substances when they asked for bleach and glass cleaner. Tony's story comes to an end when Jerry suddenly appears in the room. It turns out that the guy's real name is Daniel, and he's been involved in a lot of crimes. Suddenly, the guy pounces on Jerry and destroys him. Mary manages to escape and eventually destroy the criminal. even though it causes her great pain. After a while, the heroine still becomes a policeman, and as a memory of that day, she keeps a photo of Jerry, a chain with a cross and a rabbit's foot, which was given to her by Tony. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.